It is the final event of the PGA Tour's regular season, the Wyndham Championship at Sedgefield Country Club, where this week golfers going to jostle for position in the FedEx Cup playoffs, their final event to win points and try to get their way into the field for next week's St. Jude Championship. So a lot on the line. We're going to break it down for today, letting you know our top bets and top DFS plays for this week over on FanDuel. Welcome on into the Heat Check, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, joined here as I am every Tuesday by Brandon Gdula. Check him out on X at Gdula13. He is on Blue Sky at Gdula. Check out his work at FanDuel Research, where he is a senior managing editor. Brandon, only one event left during the regular season, 4 events left for this PGA Tour year. You don't count the fall stuff. How you doing today?
The fall stuff.
That's what they call it. That's actually what they call it, right? The fall stuff.
Yeah, it's the fall stuff.
TFS.
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, our guy Akshay couldn't get it done on the weekend, unfortunately. Just kind of hit. Henrik Norlander also ejected.
He got it done on part of the weekend, just not the second part of the weekend.
I guess, yeah. But yeah, it's I don't know. I know people kind of pick on the FedEx Cup, etc., but it's nice to get the best golfers in fields again. And I'm looking into the Ryder Cup though, even though as I try to say, like, I'm excited for the FedEx Cup, I'm just excited for the Ryder Cup. So I don't know, but we got a pretty good one this week. This is like a kind of a heat check special,
sure,
with who's favored.
Sure,
nobody's shorter than 20-1 this week, but like this is kind of, if you look at the names between like 20 and 30, it's effectively like heat check hitters only, or however, I don't know, heat check guys, but
hangers only. Yeah,
we'll get in. I mean,
you mentioned the Ryder Cup, it's like heat check favorites, but they just announced the tee times and like pairings. Ben Griffin's with Keegan Bradley, and Ben Griffin's 25, Keegan's 25. It kind of sets up for like a fun weekend. I know it's not like the most like thrilling field, but there are at least fun storylines. Like, can Jordan Spieth bounce back? Show that he's fully healthy again? Can Matt Fitzpatrick stay hot? There's some fun storylines. So I think it'll be pretty exciting to see how things play out here. Even though, again, it's not like the biggest tournament, there's still some fun stuff to track, depending whether you're following the Ryder Cup or some other stuff.
Yeah, and there's like the FedEx Cup playoffs, which frankly are like, we get good fields to end the season before football season, and that's always welcomed, because the major season, I mean, it comes and goes like in an instant, it feels like. And then to get the FedEx Cup, we're missing some guys playing on the Live Tour, of course, but you get a lot of the best golfers playing, and so it's just like a nice way to send things off. So I do like the FedEx Cup more than I kind of joke about, but yeah, we got FedEx Cup, Ryder Cup, football. It's a good time for the heat check.
Got the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs coming up. You glossed way over that. How dare you?
True. If we're doing that, we got SummerSlam this weekend. So
FanDuel, because nothing says. Yeah, no, I hear you. It's I get it. It is fun regardless. Yep. So today, we're going to dive into the Wyndham Championship breakdown, what we're seeing at Sedgefield Country Club, favorite bets at FanDuel Sportsbook, and the top DFS plays for this week as well. But first, a reminder to make sure you're subscribed to the FanDuel Research Podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts, because NFL, as Brandon mentioned, just around the corner, which of course means Heat Check back in your lives once again, coming up each week there, talking NFL DFS, PGA through the end of the Tour Championship as well. So both those shows on the FanDuel Research Podcast feed. Find that wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe. If you like what you hear, leave us a 5-star rating and review as well. And of course, golf shows on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. But don't forget to check out the FanDuel Football Betting YouTube page too, because back around there, just around the corner. FanDuel, because nothing says summer fun like adding excitement to the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Summer sports are calling your name. Baseball under the stadium lights. Again, Bristol, just around the corner. Baseball played at Bristol, what could be better? Golf on pristine green fairways, soccer matches with world-class goals, and all the action-packed moments in between. You were going to spend all day following your favorite sports on your phone anyway. Might as well make it more thrilling with FanDuel. Open the app today To get the daily promotions new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today to get started. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online, DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit MD Gambling Help.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Let's take a look now at Sedgefield Country Club, the host of this year's Wyndham Championship. Once again, 7,131 yards and a par 70 is on tap for this week. As mentioned, it is the final event before the FedEx Cup playoffs. So again, FedEx Cup positioning will matter quite a bit for this week. It is the final time for golfers to earn their way into the field for next week's St. Jude Championship. Of course, if you don't know, format for the FedEx Cup playoffs is the top 70 golfers make it to next week. And then the top 50 after that week advance, and the top 30 go to the Tour Championship. No more starting strokes. Personally, I'm thrilled about that because it makes my life easier. Might not be as intriguing, but still makes my life easier, which I will happily take. There are 156 golfers in the field this week, and the top 65 plus ties make the cut after the first 2 rounds. Brandon, we know what to expect at the Wyndham Championship at Sedgefield because we've been here for a very long time, nearly 2 decades after the most recent renovation. What should we know about this course?
Yeah, pretty average for a par 70 by length. Pretty narrow fairways, under 30 yards on average. Pretty average, though. Bermuda greens in terms of their size, 6,000 square feet. So pretty typical, but tight fairways. We'll talk about what that means here in a second. But one thing I do want to shout out is even though it's the final regular season event leading into the playoffs, you got to be able to score, got to make some birdies. Winning scores have been 18 under, 20, 20, 15, and 21 under the last 5 years. So that's always something to note. But if you look at recent performance, each of the last 10 winners at Sedgefield have ranked top 20 for the week in strokes gained approach, which really just gives this course one of the strongest correlations between approach and overall performance that you get anywhere on tour. So I think that's noteworthy. And for the most part, I'm going to be talking about a lot of good iron players, which isn't going to surprise anybody. It's what we talk about for the most part, but this week in particular. But if you go back to the driver and what you need to be able to do from the tee box, with the tighter fairways and the slightly kind of average short, I mean, it's average basically for a par 70. It's more important to be a bit accurate than it is long, which really I don't need to probably hash this out a ton, but strokes gained off the tee with an emphasis on driving accuracy is going to be, of course, the way that I like to play things for the week, because there's more than just hitting the fairways. But, if you want to look at why it's important to hit the fairways, even at an average course, you kind of have penalizing fairway misses, some dog leg shots you got to shape, some forced layups, some shorter holes as well. At Sedgefield, 11 of the 18 holes are shorter than average relative to par, with 2 short par 3s under 175, a 374-yard par 4 as well. And the 5 holes are on the other end of things in terms of length. There are 3 long par 4s over 480 and 2 long par 3s over 220 yards. So, that does kind of come into play a little bit, and that's why length is not irrelevant, and that's why I'm not just looking at driving accuracy and excluding distance. That's why I do the off the tee and weight in a little bit more accuracy. Typically I would do it the other way. I never just look at distance or accuracy and remove strokes gained off the tee is what I'm getting at here. So for me, with the notion that you got to have good ball striking, which is really this week kind of hitting fairways and then hitting greens by having good approach, I mentioned like the last 10 winners being so good with their irons. Of course, my key stats for the week: strokes gained approach, strokes gained off the tee with an emphasis on driving accuracy, proximity or strokes gained per shot from about that 125 to 175 yard range. I mentioned some shot shaping, some layups, of course, as well. That's kind of the key range where you're going to see more shots than usual for the week. And I also want some birdie or better rate. I want those guys who can go out and score. Whether you do just look at birdie or better rate, or you look at potentially a standard deviation in terms of your scoring ceiling, whatever it is, I think you need some upside, which is why I also called out the winning scores being what they are. Recent cut lines have been under par as well. Like, you're not just going to kind of grind your way to a 10 under win this week. It's not going to be enough. And we saw last week, it was almost anyone's ball game. I know Kurt Kitayama emerged, but if you looked up, if you watched anything on Sunday, you saw about it felt like 25 names within a shot or two of the lead. Could be a little bit like that again this week due to the scoring, and it's a pretty good field. And these guys are also grinding out for those final FedEx Cup points. So basically, I want ball strikers who can make birdies this week.
Now, you talked about the importance of accuracy off the tee. You also discussed the importance of approach play, which I find interesting given the first name on our course history list, golfers with the best history at Sedgefield Country Club, because the guy who leads this list might be dead last in approach over the past 6 months. Nope, he has climbed his way out of the hole. So Sungjae Im no longer DFL in the field in approach the past 6 months. That's good for him. Also good for him is his course history. Not good for him as a form. So what are you seeing as far as form at Sedgefield Country Club when you look at your list, Brandon?
Yeah, so as always, I like to look at just the last 5 years of data and get an overall strokes gained tally. So if you have like one great year, that's probably not enough, although it kind of is a little bit this week, which is also telling. But I want that combination of volume and success here. But despite being the field leader in course form, Sungjae Im comes in at 60 to 1, mid-level salary on FanDuel at 9,600. And I look at the last 5 years, but he was also T6 in 2019, so that's not even factored in here. But 5 straight top 25 finishes at Sedgefield before finishing T41 a year ago when he had some bad iron play. But that iron issue, like an iron deficiency, I guess we could probably say.
I like it.
Which is awkward because like Sungjae, when he first came onto the scene, he was a great iron player. Like his approach numbers were awesome.
That's why we liked him. He said like it's a heat check like week like this. You know, he probably was on our list those weeks, those years.
Yeah, and then the rest of the game just kind of, I don't want to say like even fell off exactly. I don't think the rest of the game wasn't bad. But now he's become pretty good elsewhere, but the irons are just like not great. And now the rest of the game is like kind of struggling too. So it was a strange combination of coming on the scene as a good iron player, decent stats, but some room to grow, and then kind of had it all together. And then the irons fell off. And now the rest of the game, aside from that around the green, he basically plays golf like I do, which is just making sure you can get up and down. And not really having any birdie chances. So, I mean, he's 12th over the last 50 rounds in accuracy, first around the green, which is not where you want to be, and 146th in approach. So that's not good. The putting's also not great. So sure, he's played well here in the past. I don't think I'm going to get there. I do think it's worth at least pausing on him because he's a bigger name, at least relative to this field too. And it's such a mid-level salary. He plays well here. Is there anything for you with Sungjae, or can you just not even consider him?
So I am okay with the archetype of he is a golfer with some name value who we know in the past has been good, and maybe we're buying low on them. I like that archetype, and there is at least one golfer who fits in that bucket for me who I like. I did look at Max Homa a bit, frankly. He's now gained with the irons in 4 straight. So I looked at the archetype, couldn't talk myself into Homa for like a top 10 bet. Probably don't want to get there in DFS if I can avoid it too, but like, I think overall the archetype is like something I am interested in this week. Couldn't get there with Sungjae, couldn't quite get there with Homa. Will get there with one golfer we'll discuss in both the betting and DFS section. But it's an archetype that I'm interested in, just not for Sungjae specifically.
He's so coy.
I know. Gotta dance around it. Gotta leave the people wanting more. We gotta get that YouTube like watch through rates sky high. Let's
you know what?
Annoyed and close out, which is okay. I understand.
That's
Fair
why
enough.
That's why you're the host and I'm the co-host.
Yeah,
so
exactly. It's Jordan Spieth. Sure.
We'll
reward people for hanging.
I assumed it was, but I
don't
want to ruin the spot here. Next on the list, this is such an awkward list that I'm kind of double checking everyone to make sure.
Oh, this guy's in the field? Accurate. Cool. I didn't realize that.
And I'm like, wait, is he in it? And second on the list is Webb Simpson. And we know, if you've followed golf for long enough or enough seasons, Webb at Sedgefield is kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking just at the last 5 years, which is telling. Simpson's salary is $8,600. He's 100-1 to win, but he's got a really long history. He's played here 16 times since 2009. Missed only 2 cuts, 2009 and 2024. He did withdraw in 2022. So to clarify here, he's got over the last 5 years, he's got a withdrawal and a missed cut in his data, and he's still second in form because he's also finished T5 and T7 as well as T3 over the last 5 years. So his actual finishes have all been top 10. And if you just go back, I'm gonna skip the withdrawal and just read his finishes. Missed cut last year, 5th, 7th, 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, 72nd, 6th, 5th, 11th, 22nd, 1st, 8th. You don't really get better form for anybody at any course ever than Webb at Sedgefield. With that said, he's neutral with his approach play over the last 50 rounds, which is interesting, but he's not a good putter right now. He's not even really accurate. He's doing a lot with the around the green, and that's still not enough to sort of get him competitive in any event. So I probably could have paused here as well because we're just not big course history guys. I just don't see doing it with Webb. And if it burns me, it burns me. But he did miss the cut here last year, and so I'm not chasing it.
Same.
We want accuracy. We want irons. Siwoo Kim fits the bill. He's third on the list. 10,700 is the salary. He's 35-1 on FanDuel Sportsbook. The early part of the history, though, is doing a lot of that heavy lifting for Siwoo Kim to get on the list. He's gone withdrawal, T33, and missed cut the last 3 years at the Wyndham. But prior to that, 3rd and 2nd. So, 2 top 5 still in the last 5 years. But before that, he actually has a win here, a missed cut and a solo 5th between 2016 and 2019. Missed the cut last week, his 2nd straight. The tee to green game is really good still for Siwoo Kim. The putter's in rough shape. The splits aren't great for him either. Byung-Hoon Ahn is next up. Salary's $8,800. He's 90-1 on FanDuel Sportsbook. Just two starts in this 5-year span, which is why I kind of called attention to my process. And a couple guys get on this list for 1 or 2 good finishes, which kind of speaks to A, the field, but also B, not a lot of consistent success here for the most part. But 35th in 2021 and a T2 in 2023 for Ben On. T18 in the solo 3rd and 2 of his 3 starts before this 5-year window. Putter's ice cold for him. Missed the cut at the 3M Open last week after missing at the Open as well. Still somewhat interesting, but it is what it is. Another name I'm just going to double check. Yeah, Kevin Kisner in the field. He was in last week's field, the 3M. Finished T28.
I knew that he was here only because I had to do a control F for Kevin's. I was looking at Kevin U stuff, and I control F and saw Kevin Kisner. I was like, huh.
It's I knew I've double checked, but I needed to do it again. Just for my.
There are actually 4 Kevins in this field, which is upsetting. It's too many Kevins. I need fewer.
It's a lot of Kevin.
I need it. I need less.
It's a lot of Kevin. But Kevin Kisner, minimum salary on FanDuel was T28 at the 3M Open last week. Prior to the 3M Open, he was T8 at the ISCO Championship, which had broken a streak of 8 straight missed cuts prior. He does have 4 career top 20s in Sedgefield and 9 starts. His last 5 years have led to a T3, a win, a withdrawal, and a missed cut. So a bit of a mixed bag, but some high-end finishes as well. 3 more names round out the list. Denny McCarthy's salary is at $10,000. 55-1 to win on FanDuel Sportsbook. McCarthy, he's become our guy. He was kind of one of the names we just write off. And then after a while, I kind of was like, you know what? Danny McCarthy is just a good golfer at a certain point. And so he was on my list, I think, a little bit before your radar. And then now it's like, I mean, he's just a dang good golfer. And I like looking at Denny McCarthy and looking at his missed cuts is kind of really interesting. He missed the cut at the Genesis Scottish Open and the Open. So he definitely doesn't have like a missed cut streak. So it might sound like weird as to why I'm mentioning missed cuts for him. But went overseas and missed both cuts. His last missed cut before that was actually at the Open in 2024. He missed at the Open and the Scottish. So 2 years in a row, he went and missed the cut overseas at both events. But before that, his last missed cut on American soil was the 2024 PGA Championship. And his last missed cut at an American or domestic, whatever you want to call it, non-major was in March of 2024. So I'm not looking at like the 2 missed cuts that he's coming off and being like, something's wrong with Denny McCarthy. I think he's really interesting. He's become a better iron player. It can still kind of come and go, but it's been pretty consistent. The putter's still pretty good. He's got 3 top 25s here in his career, 2 missed cuts in 2022 and 2023. So it's not a slam dunk, but he is one of the better standouts to me in the mid-range, both for betting and for DFS. So just shout out to Denny McCarthy for kind of becoming a guy. And I think that deserves a
guy in America who is not allowed to play elsewhere, apparently.
I guess.
Elsewhere. Yeah. He's the anti-Tommy Fleetwood.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, put their careers together. Like,
oh, my goodness. Oh, then we're cooking.
That's something.
Danny McCarthy's putter with Tommy's TD Green game. Oh, baby.
Yeah.
You could cook.
That's like one of the most like unassuming sort of like people know Tommy Fleetwood, but like if you're like, no, just imagine like giving Tommy Fleetwood and Denny McCarthy just like putting them together. I feel like the people who like follow golf and golf stats are like, oh my gosh, like that's incredible. So that one's probably for the golf.
Like 2025 Scotty.
Yeah. I wonder if you
okay. A worse 2025 Scotty because Tommy is not Scotty T. Green. He's good. He's not Scotty.
This is one of those like really dumb.
I'm excited for AI to aggregate this podcast and tweet out that I compared both Danny McCarthy and Tommy Fleetwood to Scotty Scheffler. Basically, I was definitely being very serious when I said that, and I would like that to be written into the record that I meant that with my chest. Definitely was not sarcastic. Definitely not joking.
So I don't know if I that's not worth doing, but I want to do it. I want to like sum up the best off the tee approach around the green and putting that's not Scotty, because like I wouldn't double
like number one who is not Scotty in each of those categories.
Yeah, and be like, how close to that is that guy is Scotty. I'll do it next time you're rambling about the things you find interesting. I'll try to do it.
I'll talk about Bubba Wallace winning the Brickyard 400 for 15 minutes, and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, otherwise we're talking about Zach Johnson, who I'm just, I did double check. He is in the field. 250 to 1 minimum salary.
Hey, you're not going to check if he's in the field. I might have bet Zach Johnson top 20. Okay. Let's just get this out there. Just get it out there.
Do you remember him at the Masters? Right? Was it the Masters? He shot like a 62. It was crazy. Kind of watered down what Rory did that same day, I want to say. But again, we'll get the interns on to fact check everything. After
the most accurate podcast that's ever existed because of the interns. Shout out to the interns.
Yeah. All my interns just thought off, just out of frame, just researching, handing me stats.
ZJ burned all of his fuel at the Masters. He made 2 cuts since. Good stuff, man.
Not what you want, but again, this is what you kind of get it.
Anyway, continue.
T7 cut, T36 cut, T33 the last 5 years here. And he makes the list as one of the better golfers at this course. Again, kind of stands out from that perspective. Missed a cut last week. So 2 straight missed cuts after missing at the Open. Jim, I'll kind of give you the floor here. Although he did he did gain at least 0.8 shots per round approach in both of his missed cuts at the Open and the 3M Open. Are we looking for like ZJ regression here? Is that a possibility?
No, it's not. It was just a good number.
Okay.
That's it.
And then Tom Kim, you want to talk about accuracy and a semblance of irons? He also makes the list. Salary's only $9,000. He's 80-1 to win outright on FanDuel Sportsbook. T28 last week after missing the cut at the Open. T17 at the Scottish Open the week prior, which was actually his best finish in 2025 since a T7 at Pebble all the way back in early February. Only started here once in 2022 and won. So I alluded to someone like making it on here with one good finish. That's Tom Kim. So, I mean, I know, like, would you go Tom Kim or Zach Johnson straight up this week?
Oh my goodness. What? Why? Oh gosh. Okay. That threw me off because I was expecting you to ask that question, but not of Tom Kim. Okay. Yeah. You have to roster one at salary between Tom Kim, 9,000, Max Homa, 93, Sung J M, 96. Who are you taking?
Probably that's a good one. I have an inclination here. My gut says Tom Kim.
Lowest salary is Tom Kim, so I agree.
That's the stipulation there.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I don't hate the idea of it. Given course fit, irons have been in better recently. I think he's the one who makes the most sense personally of that trio.
Yeah, I need him to make some noise. I know it's not President's Cup season, but I just need him to like disrupt the Ryder Cup season and steal some of the headlines back over to him. I think would be good.
Exactly. I think everyone would be very happy if that were to happen. Tom Kim will not be in the current form section of the show, but let's take a look at who has been lightened up recently. And Brandon, who has the best form entering the Wyndham Championship?
So I go to Data Golf's True Strokes Gained Query, which adjusts for field strength. That's relevant because it also will include, or you can exclude amateur data. I think that's relevant here. Amateur. That's how like everyone says it.
It's not a chish. It's not a chish. It's a t.
Everyone says amateur. I don't know.
Amateur hour right here.
Amateur hour. I don't know. This is one of those like who could say kind of situation. I'm sure there's people out there. Well, I think if people know golf, it probably
Jaguars.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm gonna call it amateur. So we can fight off air later. But I look at the last 3 months of data from Data Golf, their adjusted strokes gained per round numbers. And I'm just going to be honest, this one's a pretty short segment because there's not a whole lot that stands out. I'll get into the value golfers with the best form, but there are only 6 names above a 1.5 this week, which isn't terrible, but only one name is actually above a 2. So it's kind of like some tight clustering without anybody really standing out. And a 1.5 is solid, but it's not like jaw dropping or anything. And this is just even your like recent form who's kind of popping off. But it's a lot of high salaried names with one exclusion. But Matt Fitzpatrick leads the way to 2.03. He's the betting favorite at 20-1 on FanDuel Sportsbook. He's the highest salaried golfer on FanDuel from a DFS standpoint at 12,000. No big shock there. Second up is Keegan Bradley at a 1.94. 11,900 is the salary. 25-1 on FanDuel Sportsbook. Then we get Ben Griffin, 1.8 true strokes gained per round. Harry Hall, 1.69. His salary is 11,000. Griffin comes in at 11.8. Jackson Coyven, the amateur, 1.58 true strokes gained per round with his amateur data factored in. Salary is only 9,000. And then we get our guy, Jordan Spieth, at a 1.53. Salary is 11,300. I believe he did lengthen from, 30 to 33, which is interesting. But those are the 6 names above a 1.5. Do you want to pause on anyone? We'll talk about Coyven later on, but anybody you want to pause on?
So I'm assuming that Matt Fitzpatrick is not in your betting section, correct?
He's not, but I liked him for so long, and now he's just the favorite all of a sudden.
Right.
And that's tricky, but there's a lot to like about him for sure.
I think that the there's a lot to like part is why I can't talk anyone out of it. And you'll say that phrase a lot, I'm not going to talk anyone out of Matt Fitzpatrick.
Yeah,
I kind of feel the same way this week, where it's I'm not getting to 20-1, But like, I understand if you want to, given how good he's been recently, how good he is like over a longer sample as well. I kind of think it made sense. And frankly, like we talk a lot about, looking at smaller samples for ball striking, longer samples for short game. He looks really good when you do that. So I get it with Fitzpatrick. Couldn't quite get there myself, but like, frankly, he's a pretty easy sell. So that's when I got to myself this week. And I don't mind him for DFS at 12K. Probably prefer to like skip down for my top golfer this week, but like same for DFS and for betting, where I'm like, yeah, he's fine. I have no objections to him. And I think that that's kind of where I settle in with Fitzpatrick, 20-1 to win, but then 12,000 on FanDuel as well.
Yeah, it's such an easy case to be made for him now that his form is trending back up.
Mm-hmm.
Over the last 3 months, like I was kind of I don't want to say clowning. I wasn't like doing that, but if you open up to the top 150 in the world currently on Data Golf's rankings for the last 3 months, Scotty's at a 3.82, which is disgusting. Just like true sicko stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Bryson 2.3, Rahm 2.4, Tommy Fleetwood 2.05, and then it's Matt Fitzpatrick at 2.03.
Right.
It's a 3-month sample. There's more to it than that, but I think he is clearly rightfully the favorite. And I could be kicking myself for overthinking it. My model doesn't quite find value at 20-1. I wish there were just like kind of co-favorites and like everyone was just kind of 25-1. It's like, take your pick, I guess. But he is in the best form. I do think he has kind of the highest ceiling. He's like the guy I would kind of trust the most on a Sunday here. But with that, you got to factor in the number. And there's someone in Keegan Bradley who's just behind him at a 1.94. Kind of better long-term samples as well for Keegan. He's just got to make some putts. But Fitzpatrick, very, very interesting this week for sure.
Maybe we'll talk Keegan later on. Okay, let's talk about the value players. Which golfers are the best form among the plays at $10,000 or lower?
So Jackson Coyven is number one. Salary's $9,000. He's at that 1.58 that I mentioned. He's the top ranked amateur by the official amateur rankings. Data and Data Golf as well among the amateur ranks. T6 at the ISCO, T11 at the John Deere for him, and some either softer or alternate field events on the PGA Tour. Missed the cut at the US Open, but made the cut at the Farmers and Arnold Palmer Invitational back in Q1 of 2025. Won the 2025 SEC Men's Golf Championship stroke play tournament in April. And if you remove the amateur data, he still ranks well. So like when he's played these PGA level events, has been pretty good. I think he's going to be an interesting name for the week. Only 4 other names are above a 1 in this span, which is the bigger issue for me of, like below at a salary of 10,000 or lower. It's a lot of like solid names above 10,000 without a lot of separation. But in terms of like finding true value names in great form, they just don't totally exist. And 2 of the names are at 9,900 exactly. One of them is Nikolai Højgaard at 99. He's at a 1.44. T24 at the Rocket Classic, T4 at the Scottish Open, T14 at the Open. He's gone T14 and missed cut at Wyndham in his career. Top 15 ball striking stats and 25th in putting the last 3 months. I kind of like him this week. Not sure I'll get there, but I kind of, as I'm building lineups, I have a need to get in like the 10K range, and that's kind of interesting for sure. Ryan Fox is next up at a 1.35. Salary's just 9,200. He's on here despite a T65 at the Genesis and a missed cut at the Open, but he's won twice since May at the Myrtle Beach Classic and the RBC Canadian Open. Missed the cut here last year in his only start, but he's 7th in the field over the last 3 months in strokes gained approach. Cameron Young, 9,900 for the salary, 55-1 to win on FanDuel Sportsbook, 1.28 true strokes gained per round. Also missed the cut at the Open. And since his T4 at the US Open, T52 at the Travelers, T46 at the Rocket Classic, did actually finish T22 here last year while losing 0.66 strokes per round putting, but was 5th in tee to green here a year ago. So interesting, but we've probably made very similar cases for Cameron Young, like to break out and get things right for years now, and it just sort of is what it is. And then the last name above a 1 is Kevin Yu at 9,500. He's at a 1.01, so just makes that cutoff. 65-1 to win on FanDuel Sportsbook. He's on here despite 2 straight missed cuts at the Open and the 3M Open. But prior to that, 3rd, 34th, 21st, and 34th. Not particularly great around the green, but that's not a key stat for this week. If you're struggling around the greens, you're probably just not in contention anyway, so what's the point? And 2 missed cuts in his history at Sedgefield as well. So I know it sounds like you liked him because he's on Team Kevin for you. I know you're doing the whole Kevin stack.
I will not.
But he's fine for me. Yeah. But who on this list jumps out? Anybody?
No one. And that's part of my thought here is the mid-range, after Denny McCarthy falls off pretty hard. I like Ryan Gerard at 97. I'm okay with you at 95. Nobody else I can even feasibly talk myself into, honestly. That's why I had to look into Max Homa at 93, had to ask for Tom Kim at 9,000. I think the 8,000 range is superior, to the 9K range. So I just want to avoid this tier entirely if I can. That was my major takeaway personally.
Yeah, it's a tough one for sure. There's a lot you can sell yourself on. There's a lot of settling you can do, and you just have to figure out where you end up kind of netting out,
right?
And how you want to end up going from there. I wish there were a few more takeaways, but there just kind of aren't, unfortunately.
Yep, I could not agree more. Weather for this weekend looks pretty gross, frankly, from start to finish. Good chance of rain and thunderstorms Thursday afternoon, which could cause delays there. Similar thing Friday, with the wind higher in the afternoon than it is in the morning. But frankly, you don't really know when guys will be on the course, given there will be, I would think, some delays at some point during the day Thursday. So stacking waves might be tough. Maybe you could do so in hopes that one wave does wind up getting a benefit, but I don't know which wave that would be. So good luck to you in that. I think it's kind of a wash, both in the literal sense and a which wave benefits sense. There'll be high winds Saturday, rain possible all throughout. Maybe that keeps scoring a bit more in check than usual, but also will be damper, which will make things a bit easier on the greens too. So it's just not great weather across the board. Please keep that in mind as you are filling out your slips. Speaking of which, let's take a look at the betting odds over at FanDuel Sportsbook and try to identify the best bets for this week to win the Wyndham Championship. Brandon, beginning with the outrights, where are you seeing value there this week at FanDuel Sportsbook?
I really, again, find Matt Fitzpatrick interesting, but where I settled in to start things off is Keegan Bradley at 25-1. Still marching toward trying to, automatically qualify for the Ryder Cup. Don't think that part's very feasible, but I think he's trying to build as much of a case as he can to pick himself, which I'm on board with. I think it'd be interesting, but also I understand the case is not to sort of do that. But anyway, Keegan has what it takes to sort of win here this week. And one of the kind of crazier stats that we get in a non-Scotty field is how much better Bradley's been tee to green than anyone else over everybody's last 50 rounds. This is kind of reserved for Scotty territory of how much better someone's been than the rest of the field. But over everyone's last 50 rounds, according to Data Golf, Keegan has averaged plus 1.83 true strokes gained per round from his tee to green numbers. A lot of that is around the green. That's not lost on me, but 1.83 with second place being Siwoo Kim at a 1.26. That's a massive gap. And yes, Keegan has to putt better. He's losing 0.13 strokes per round with the putter in that span. His underlying splits aren't particularly great. 22nd percentile on tour this year from within 15 feet. You don't love that, but it's so easy to start yourself on everything else for him to go out and play some great tee to green golf, get himself in contention. And frankly, this is much more of my process than it used to be. But Keegan going up against any of these names in a final pairing on Sunday, I'm probably taking Keegan over anybody on this list, frankly. He's got that sort of extra amount of dog in him. But really the thing is the underlying tee to green stats being so much better than I realized compared to everybody else that he stands out to me. So I like Keegan Bradley to start things off at 25-1.
I am on board with that as well. And I want to bet Keegan at 25-1 personally. You talked about the tee to green game. Let's put the putting in play as well. You get the past 6 months over at Data Golf. Keegan Bradley at plus 1.53 strokes gained per round. Jordan Spieth at second at 1.32. And that, again, includes the fact that Keegan is not putting the ball well right now. We don't want to double count that. So even when you put the putting into play, Keegan does still grade out as being the best golfer in the field across the past 6 months. You said that you want irons. You said that you want a guy who can have a little bit of accuracy, a little bit of distance. Keegan checks those boxes. So for me, 25-1, that's a pretty hard number to ignore for a guy who, like you said, has shown us he can close the door on a win when given the chance.
Yeah, I feel like I can't regret going with Keegan this week at a 25-1 number. Frankly, with how well he's played with the recent win, I feel like he should probably be the one who's 20-1 and be the favorite, despite talking up Fitzpatrick so much.
Sure.
I would not be surprised if Bradley were 20-1 right now. So I like Keegan at 25. I feel really good with his upside and his ceiling.
I definitely do understand that. So I'm on Keegan, like I said, 25-1 as well. So we're both on Keegan Bradley for this week. What other outrights do you like for FanDuel Sportsbook?
I like Hideki Matsuyama at 33-1 to win the Wyndham Championship. He's also got a high ceiling. I mentioned Keegan Bradley having a high ceiling. Bradley actually has the highest statistical ceiling over his last 50 rounds. Hideki's actually third over everybody's last 50 rounds. And for anybody curious, Jake Knapp's in between right now. But Hideki is 8th in the field in strokes gained tee to green the last 50. And although he's 66th in the field and putting in that span, he's actually been a pretty solid putter. Something that's interesting to me. For the season, he's a 60th percentile putter from within 15 feet on tour. That's like, it's above average. And if you can get Hideki making some putts with his game and his irons, that stands out to me. And the irons right now, if you look at his event log, they look kind of like Hideki's old numbers, and it's awesome to see. She's got some better finishes, specifically at T16 at the Open. The putter is kind of trending back up as the underlying splits are kind of coming to fruition, making more putts. And the biggest knock on him, frankly, is the form at Sedgefield. But I don't care about that enough. So give me Hideki, high ceiling player, phenomenal iron player, easily could go out and lead the field and strokes gained tee to green. And the putter, I know it's Hideki and the putter, and we can say whatever we want. It's actually a lot better than people probably realize right now.
Yeah. And I like Hideki too. I like him in DFS at 11-2. I like him for betting. He's 33-1. The one reason I couldn't get to him is because I liked another guy a bit more. That other guy is now the exact same number as Hideki Matsuyama, and that is Jordan Spieth. As alluded to earlier on, I like Spieth this week, 33-1 right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. I think he proved to us he was healthy at the Open Championship. Irons there were not as good as they had been, but they were just bananas before he had the neck injury that had forced him to a draw back in June. He drove the ball well at Royal Portrush, so not super concerned that he is not healthy. He told, again, shout out FanDuel Sports, shout out FanDuel TV, Kay Adams, told her that he is fully healthy right now at that neck. Spieth did putt well at Royal Portrush too. Of course, he is like the links master, so that's not a huge surprise. But the irons are really good before the injury. Accuracy off the tee, despite the Spieth coaster, his accuracy is better than you might think. And I think that the ambiguity around his injury, in fact, we've seen him back for only one event, and he was just okay in that event, finishing 40th. I think that's allowing us to still get Spieth at a discount. So I like Spieth at 33-1 to win this week. Brandon, did you consider Spieth? And if so, what put you on Hideki over Spieth as your pick at 33-1?
I did definitely take a long look at Jordan Spieth, specifically compared to Hideki, and the biggest change there is the difference in iron play. It just does favor Hideki still. I know Spieth's got a lot of good numbers in his profile in terms of approach, with the ability to kind of have some upside, but frankly, Hideki is able to go low and get the most out of his game a little bit more consistently than Spieth can. And I'm kind of waiting for some putting regression for Hideki. So that's ultimately what put me there. But It was a hard conversation to pick between those two at similar numbers. Now that they're at the same number, I still think I'd go Hideki, but I made that decision when Spieth was 30 and Hideki was 33.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Okay, so we're both on Keegan Bradley 25-1, and then you're on Hideki Matsuyama 33, and I am on Jordan Spieth at 33 this week. What about non-outrights? Where are you seeing value there this week as of right now?
So I talked about Danny McCarthy's consistency. The upside's still pretty good as well. I like him to finish top 10 at plus 550. Talked about his missed cut streak, but just to sort of reiterate, last time he missed a cut in America that wasn't a major was March of 2024. And he's missed one cut since then, and that was the PGA Championship if we exclude the Scottish Open and the Open. So one of the most consistent players, and the reason that he can do that is just he's got like a really good all-around game. And right now, over the last 50 rounds, Danny McCarthy is 38th in approach among this field and 3rd in putting. Those are the two most important stats that you can be good in, and he's there. And he's got the 13th highest strokes gained floor in this span as well. Top 10 number is still, top 10 finish is still a ceiling result, but he never really plays himself out of anything. And this feels like it's a good setup for him where he doesn't have to be super long off the tee. Digging back in his career, he's got 3 top 25 finishes and 5 made cuts and 7 starts at Sedgefield. And frankly, Danny McCarthy right now is playing better golf than ever before. So I like him to do a bit more than that this week and get into the top 10.
So I'm also on McCarthy. I do want to note he's shortened to 5-1.
Okay.
I'm still okay with that personally. Obviously, it's not as attractive, but 5-1 is still okay by me. If it were to get to 475, I think I'd be out. But 5-1, I'm still okay with. Same for you?
Yeah, that's actually where I'd probably have the cutoff as well. Is okay. Basically 5-1.
Yeah, and for me, it's all the same things you discussed with McCarthy, where the irons have been better for him for a while now. We know what the putter can be. He's probably just a bad links player, frankly, leading to those 2 missed cuts, given what you alluded to with the missed cuts last year too. So McCarthy 5-1 for a top 10, still okay by me too. So we're aligned on McCarthy this week. What other non-outrights are you
eyeing? Carolina guy Andrew Novak to get into the top 20. Presumably plus 280 still, but there was a lot of movement. He's plus 280 to finish top 20. And he's a positive in all 4 strokes gained categories over the last 50 rounds, which only 15 golfers in this field can say, which is, roughly about where you get, but that's not a lot of names to be good across the board. He's also a really good putter, 75th percentile from within 15 feet, kind of in the regression zone a little bit as well. 46th percentile putter from beyond 15 feet. The form at Sedgefield, despite, being from Carolina, I think he actually lives in Georgia, but don't quote me on that. But he's a Panthers fan, so he's got to like Carolina still. Form at Sedgefield, not particularly great. Cut T33, T52 the last 3 years, but he's actually gained strokes tee to green in all 3 of those years, lost with the putter in all 3 as well. And frankly, the form is just much better than it was, which is always the type of thing you need to look at whenever you compare somebody's past results to how they're golfing now. Give me a good tee to green resume for someone who's playing his best golf now. I'll take that.
Yeah, I am broadly in on Andrew Novak as someone who I tend to like, especially in this kind of event. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And he's someone I'm okay with for this week as well. So you got Novak for a top 20, a plus 280 to go with McCarthy top 10 at 5-1. I want to focus on a guy you were discussing earlier on. You were talking about how there aren't a lot of guys with longer odds or with lower DFS salaries in good form. And the one guy who stood out as an exception to you, who did check in with longer betting odds, lower salary, and good form, is Jackson Koivin. And I think that Koivin is a value to finish top 10 at plus 750 at the Wyndham Championship. He did miss a cut at the US Open, but 11th at the John Deere. He was 6th at the ISCO Championship as well. So good PGA Tour data, made the cut at the Arnold Palmer and the Farmers over the winter. And between those times, obviously put up phenomenal numbers, both collegiately and then other amateur events as well. Irons, if you look at the data where we actually have data, the irons have not necessarily excelled. Accurate off the tee, good putter and limited shot length data. But I think this is a guy who has shown he's playing good golf, even once you adjust the fields he's playing against. I do think there's risk in that profile because obviously it's tougher to project someone moving up to the PGA Tour from what they've been playing against primarily like collegiate fields. But, and that's why we're gunning for an upside market as opposed to taking Quaven for a top 20. I prefer him for betting over DFS too for that same rationale. I want to take advantage of his upside while giving myself leaning more into the risk with Quaven, and I can do that by betting to finish top 10 at plus 750. So I'm cool taking a swing at Jackson Quaven this week. Plus 750 for a top 10 to me is a fun way to do so. Brandon, what about you? What are your thoughts on Jackson Quaven this week?
Yeah, I mean, not a ton of shot link data, as you mentioned, but at the ISCO was 12th in approach. Did more with the driver and putter at the John Deere recently, but at a certain point, I think I love shot link data as much as anybody. Overall success, getting the ball in the hole, I think also is something that kind of goes overlooked a little bit.
Right.
And honestly, that's just like in a vacuum, plus 750 to finish top 10 is a pretty nice number for, I don't want to say anybody because it's not the case, but plus 750 to finish top 10, that's appealing. And it's one of those, like, I'm not going to talk you out of it because he frankly has been knocking on the door already. And this field, while solid, is not so star-studded that I think he's going to get his doors blown off. Like, it's golf, there's volatility, but to be honest, he's a pretty good golfer, and there's not a lot of great golfers like at the top end this week.
You're a good golfer. And I think that's enough for me. So I got Jackson Quaven top 10, plus 750 to go with the Denny McCarthy top 10 at 5-1. Let's talk now about some DFS for this week. Something we had alluded to earlier on was the lack of value in the mid-range. And I think, Brandon, that's kind of influencing my view of the top end of the field for this week, where as much as I like Matt Fitzpatrick and I'm very okay with him, as a default, I think I prefer to spend down for my top stud. That would be via Jordan Spieth 11-3, Hideki Matsuyama 11-2. I think I'm pretty likely to have those two guys like as my top two highest salary golfers in like my default lineup this week. How are you doing things holistically, based on once you consider the value plays when you look at the studs?
That's the hardest thing. Like, I know what you're saying. Like in a vacuum, I want to play Fitz. I want to play Keegan Bradley, but unless I'm playing like a Sami Valimaki at 76, it's kind of hard to build a lineup that I love due to how few names there are in between. So I've been trying to start my lineups with Keegan and still get Hideki. And, it's doable. You get 92-25 left, but that's kind of a dead range for the most part. Or it's a lot of like Ryan Fox down there, Quaven as well, Novak. So I guess maybe I like that a little bit more than I maybe thought. Throw Tom Kim in there as well.
Yeah. So
I think I am a little bit higher on Keegan/Fitz than you, but at the same time, with Hideki and Spieth there, I think it's a week where you can spend down a little bit from the top.
Yeah.
So that you can. Would you use that then to build more around the mid range?
Yes.
Like
so basically what I want to do is I want Spieth and Hideki, and then I want Denny McCarthy at 10,800 or at 10,000 because I think it's a pretty big drop off after Denny McCarthy. If I do that, I have 91.67 left. And frankly, that does mean I could go with Fitz if I wanted to. Like if I wanted to go like the opposite of you and go with Spieth and Fitzpatrick, 8,900 left for three golfers. I like Christian Bezeto 86. There are some guys in the upper 8 range I like. So like I can make that lineup work. So, maybe if I wanted to be more aggressive, I could, but like in general, I'm just trying to find ways to avoid the mid range, like the 9K range as a whole this week, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm more fine with it than you are, but I understand the lack of excitement.
Yeah.
It's just kind of whatever.
Yeah, it is. But you are most in on Keegan, it sounds like, at 11.9, like overall in a vacuum.
I mean, if it's a DFS situation, it should be Fitz from from a head-to-head standpoint, just due to the fact that it's a safer profile and he's a much better putter than Keegan. But I think Fitz is going to catch a lot of attention as always. Like highest salary, shortest betting odds is going to likely be the chalk. But Keegan and Fitz, well over Ben Griffin, Robert McIntyre, and Akshay.
Yep.
Like, I just think the tier is those two for me.
I agree with that. And then for me, it picks back up with Spieth at 11-3, Hideki at 11-2. Aaron Rye is 22-1 to win this week. His salary is 11-1. And typically I like to look at guys who have like mismatched salaries and betting odds. Rye fits that. I think his betting odds are shorter than they should be. So I guess maybe I've been kind of ignoring him as a result of that. That's why I've been gravitating towards Spieth and Hideki over Rye, despite the fact that Rye has shorter betting odds and a lower salary. How are you viewing Rye at 11-1 this week?
Yeah, so this isn't giving anything away because Data Golf, you can see the top 5 projections and their win probabilities, but Rye is their favorite for the week at 4.5% to win. That's with their baseline plus course history plus course fit factored in. And so he's at 4.5%. Nobody else is above 4%, specifically 3.9%. But if you look just at the baseline model, he's actually down to 2.2%. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of emphasis on his course history. I think they have him around 0.46 strokes gained per round added. Data Golf is a popular site. I think that has, some merit here for sure.
There is a reason he is 22-1, and it is not a coincidence that he is the favorite in their model.
So to me, I'm not betting him. I like him more for DFS than betting for sure. But at the same time, give me Hideki and Spieth, even though I know I'm looking in the face of the betting odds and saying,
correct,
I'd rather spend a higher salary for worse betting odds for Hideki and Spieth than Aaron Rye. But frankly, Rye also is a lower ceiling player than we need to kind of like. That needs to matter.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm still going Hideki and Spieth over Rye.
Yeah, I agree. And like, that does mean I'm in essence betting against Data Golf, because it's like, I'm ranking these two guys that they like less. I'm ranking them above Aaron Rye. And I don't do that typically because Data Golf is tremendous and a resource we lean on very heavily. I think in this one instance, I'm okay being lower on a golfer that they're higher on, and still like acknowledging they do awesome stuff. And that's what we're both doing here, saying like, yeah, they do great work. We're just not going to be as high in Rye as they are for this week. So I agree. Spieth and Hideki over Aaron Rye for me. Anybody else between 11K and 10K who's grabbing your attention?
Well, just want to shout out Harry Hall again, because I went through the last 3 months and he is at a 1.69. So that he's actually 4th in recent strokes gained. I'm not going to get there. He does a lot with the putter, but wanted to kind of make a note of that. I mentioned Jake Knapp as the second highest ceiling between Keegan and Hideki over the last 50 rounds. Not going to go back to Kitayama. Siwoo Kim's slightly interesting. Not Clanton. I do have interest in Lucas Glover, who I'm actually interested in betting as well. Just kind of didn't fit him into the betting section. Really great tee to green numbers. Not like the putter needs to kind of come to life a little bit, but he's like not as bad of a putter. He's kind of baseline from within 15 feet, 47th percentile, just 18th beyond that. So he should make more putts soon. So I don't mind Lucas Glover, but I think specifically between 10-1 and like Hideki, I think it's just Glover drawing my attention before I get to Danny McCarthy. What about you? Anybody in that range you want to roster?
Pretty similar sentiment. We're like, yeah, shout out Harry Hall, playing really good golf, bit too putter dependent for me to get there. Siwoo Kim at 10-7 is fine. I do like Glover at 10-5. And like I mentioned before, I've got some flexibility. If I go with Spieth plus Hideki, maybe I go Glover instead of McCarthy in that situation. So I think that Glover would probably be the one guy I'd feel, most strongly about there. But I do like McCarthy a lot at $10,000. Like, I could go Harry Hall at 11K or use McCarthy at 10. I'd rather save the $1,000 personally for a similar archetype. But frankly, McCarthy's irons have been better over a longer time. Hall's recent data has been good-ish as far as like the irons. He's lost his past 2 events, but those were both in Scotland in Scotland and then in Northern Ireland. So it's understandable and forgivable there. But I like McCarthy more at 10K if we are looking at those two kind of heads up. Okay. All right. So dipping down to, because you like Denny too, so we don't spend too much time on him, correct? Okay.
Correct.
So below McCarthy, 99 through 9,000, which names are catching your attention?
I like Nikolai Højgaard a bit. Not enough to make him like a love, but I think he's in good form. Would not surprise me if he just kind of emerges here. Like, I can't do Sung Jae. This tier just itself is not great. I know. Sell me on Max Homa, can you?
I was just selling Ryan Gerard first, 97.
Oh, okay.
Let me do that because I actually do like Gerard at 97. Feel pretty good about him. Past 6 months, the iron's been pretty good. I know when we talked about him back like over the winter, he was doing most of his work with the putter, so I wasn't like super sold. But the past 6 months, he's at a plus 0.52 with the irons per round according to Data Golf. Really good accuracy off the tee. It just had like the worst putter you could possibly fathom recently. He was good with the putt over the winter and spring, so I'm curious if he can turn that around. And he probably did because he won the Barracuda. Like at least he had one good event of putting, no shot link data there, so must have done something at least in that event. But he's 97. I think that Gerard does make sense because I want to buy into his irons. He's kind of like the one guy I'm like really interested in here. And
yeah, it's a good shout. His recent ball striking numbers are good enough. The short putting just is not great though, which is a little bit of a concern. So more of a like than a love for me.
Yeah, that's fair. I understand that for sure. I don't mind Kevin Yu at 95 either. As far as Homa, it was just kind of like looking at the fact that his irons have started to turn around a bit. It's not been like amazing by any means yet, but there's at least something there for Homa where we know that in there is a good golfer. And he's shown at least signs of it. Like, again, he's gained with approach in 4 straight. He gained off the tee at both the John Deere and the 3M Open. No shot link data for the Barracuda, but finished 45th there. You know, I haven't seen enough to get there. And again, I think I'd prefer Tom Kim if I'm going to buy into this archetype at 9,000, but I did at least want to look into Homa and give him a chance, considering we know there is a good golfer in there somewhere, even if we haven't seen him for a bit.
We need a tiebreaker at least before the end of the season for our podcast bets. Would you bet me Ryan Fox FanDuel points against Max Homa?
I would not.
Okay.
I appreciate the ask, but because Homa, like, again, if I'm going to buy into someone like him, I need it to be in like a hyper volatile market, and that the head-to-head against one golfer is not a volatile enough market. And like, I also would not consider using him in our head-to-head. Not that it matters anymore, but like, would not even consider him for that format either.
It does
help us for the win picks, who with picks first and stuff like that. But yeah, I prefer Fox for sure. Okay.
Yeah, I like Fox.
Go ahead.
Fox is in solid form. 2 wins, of course, but the recent ball striking numbers are good enough. Just, I didn't mention him in the betting section specifically, but I've got interest in there. I wrote him up on FanDuel Research for specifically like a top 20 kind of angle.
Sure.
But I think he's got the win juice to go out and get it done. Of course, he's done it, but he's my preference in that range. Andrew Novak as well, 91. Probably would go Novak over Fox for a semblance of safety, but we got Tom Kim and Koiven. Seeing these names, does it change your thoughts on how you want to build things or no?
No, because this is the range I want to be in. This is where it picks back up to me, is around here. Koiven at 9,000. I like him more than Tom Kim personally. Maybe that's stupid. I don't know. But I like Koiven more than Tom Kim at 9,000. I really like Emiliano Grillo, who is $8,900. So like, he's a big part of why I like the value range. Grillo's irons are still like really good. He struggled around the green last week, so he didn't do a ton, but like, irons are still good. Great accuracy off the tee, which will help him again. The putter has been good enough for me to trust him over a long enough sample. So I like Grillo. And then Christian Bezuidenhout, back on him once again this week, $8,600. Irons have still been good, accurate off the tee. We know he can putt. So I feel pretty strong about the value plays, specifically Bezuidenhout, Grillo. I don't mind Alex Norton 88 either. His irons have been pretty spotty. But like, he's had good events since he came back from the hamstring injury. So Grillo, Bezuidenhout, pretty strong conviction for me. Like Koiven, receptive to Tom Kim and Andrew Novak. So that's why I like this tier more personally.
Yeah, I think those are basically the names I like as well. So I don't have a ton to add. Specifically, Grillo is going to be a name that I try to get to. And if I had to shout out anybody else, Maybe Victor Perez is looking good in the stabilization model.
Okay.
Let me look at him real quick. His size 84. I mean, good irons, good putting, which you love to see. A lot of pop with the irons. So 84, I like that. I mentioned Sammy Valimaki at 76. I'm definitely not against that. Probably don't want to get there too often though. He's like a spike week waiting to happen with his irons and putting, but from a DFS standpoint, that's a lot of risk to sort of tie lineups to. I'd rather kind of get in, get out in the betting market. So for me, probably Perez is who I'd shout out next.
Okay. So let's go with our loves for this week for DFS. Who are your loves for DFS at the Wyndham Championship?
Loves are going to be, I'm still going to put, I'll do, all right. I'm going to go Hideki, Denny McCarthy, Ryan Fox, Andrew Novak, and Emiliano Grillo.
Okay. We're actually more different this week than I thought we were going to be. Because my love is Spieth. I would put Fitzpatrick, Bradley, and Hideki as all likes, like good likes, and I'm cool with any of them. So depending on where the winds take me, I'm okay with the one of those guys being my second guy. I agree with you on McCarthy as being a love at $10,000. With Lucas Glover being a like at 10.5, and then Gerard being a like at 97, but then Grillo and Bezadenho both pretty firm loves for me at 89 and 86 respectively. So similar thoughts, but a bit different, all things considered, for this week for us from a DFS perspective. Okay, let's finish up by doing our win picks contest for this week. I'm pretty sure that you beat me.
Mm-hmm.
In our head-to-head contest this past week, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so it means you get to go first. Do you want to pick first and fourth or second and third when you're picking winners for this week?
As much as I hate to let you pick first, I can guarantee that I get two of the three names that I would pick. So I think I have to do that and let you pick first and fourth, and I will pick second and third.
I hate that. I really didn't want to pick first. Wait, no, you get to pick. Oh, dang it.
So like either way, you were gonna, this is the lesser of two evils for me.
Yeah. If you so we liked the guys we liked were Keegan, Spieth, and Hideki. If any of those guys win and you pick them, you would be ahead of me in our win picks contest. So, because like last week I was able to whittle it down by being like, okay, if you pick this guy and he wins, you're still not catching me. That's not the case this week, which means I have to decide, do I want to go with Keegan, who I like less than Spieth at his number, or do I leave you Keegan and Hideki and take Spieth myself?
Yeah.
I hate that.
I know. I'll take the other two. So that's
right
where it is.
And so the question is, would I rather have Keegan at 25 or Spieth at 33? Keegan is the more likely winner. And I feel like I have to use that as my tiebreaker because we're down to 4 events left. Yeah. And so at some point I kind of need to just like play defense. And so like,
that's what I would do if I were you.
But like, you also like Keegan more than me. So it's like, that's my conundrum is I like Spieth more than I like Keegan at their respective numbers. But like, I think for the purposes of this game, I have to go Keegan at 25 and give you Hideki and Spieth.
I think that's the right play. That's what I have penciled in already. So
okay.
I'm going Hideki and Spieth at 33 each.
Then for my second pick, like the other guys I like for win bets, I do like Danny McCarthy 55-1. I think that's like actually like a genuinely pretty good bet. So I don't mind that one. Honestly, though, there's not a whole lot. So I think what I'd want to do instead is just pick Fitz at 20-1 and try to increase my lead over you. So I think
I almost wrote that down.
Yeah.
I just should have. But I predicted this.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the way I need to at this point in the game. So I'm going to go with Fitz at 20 and Keegan Bradley at 25. You've got Jordan Spieth 33 and Hideki 33 as well, with only 4 weeks left in the win pick season for this year. That's all we got for the Wyndham Championship. Brandon, any final thoughts for you before we close up shop for today?
I think I say the same thing every week, but there are names that we just kind of glossed over. Ben Griffin playing some great golf.
Yeah.
Robert McIntyre playing great golf. There's not a consensus this week, despite Fitz being the highest salaried and the favorite. So this is a great week to kind of get different, because you're not missing out on you're not galaxy braining, not rostering Scotty Scheffler.
Right.
You're actually smartly, potentially in tournaments, trying to differentiate and not play the chalky guys who are getting talked up a lot, which are going to be Fitz, Keegan, Rye. You can go a lot of different ways this week, and I think it's a really interesting week to do that.
I agree with that as well. That is all that we have here for today. Back with you once again next week for the start of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Same time, same place, Tuesday afternoon on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page and over on the FanDuel Research Podcast feed. Subscribe on both those feeds. If you're watching YouTube, leave us a thumbs up. We appreciate those of you watching already. Leave your bets this week in the comments as well. Big shout out to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work on the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. Brandon, people have questions for you on social media. Where can they find you there?
I'm on X at Gdula13, GDULA13, and on Blue Sky at Gdula.
And I'm on X and Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Want to thank you all for tuning in for today. Good luck to you with your bets and your DFS picks for the Wyndham Championship. We'll talk to you once again for the first round of the FedEx Cup playoffs. This has been the Heat Check, a FanDuel Research podcast.